Thank you, everyone, again for joining us. I really appreciate your time. We have done a lot of events in the month of April, and many of you are repeat visitors. So, again, I thank you so much for your time and for joining us. And I hope, most importantly, that you have gotten something out of each of these sessions. I want to make sure that this has been incredibly helpful for you, and I will be asking for your feedback shortly. So welcome to my new members. Again, we have an alumni joining us today, and I'm super excited about that. Hey, Maya. Um, Today, you guys are in for a treat. I hope you came prepared with questions because you have two incredible entrepreneurs on the line with us here to give you guys insight into what you should be doing right now. The quarantine for the first couple of weeks, I get it. For the first week, everyone was unsure, scared, not knowing what to do. Some of you even use this word that I don't understand, this bored word that I don't know what that means. But if you do find yourself in that scenario, there really are things that you should be doing now. And we're going to get into that in the conversation. So hopefully, this next 90 minutes will give you an idea of things that you can be doing, things that you should be doing, and things that you should not be doing to help advance and grow your startup. Again, I mentioned, and you may have seen in the registration, this is driven by you. This was an idea that you guys came up with. So our panelists here are today are for you. So please put your questions. If you did not submit your questions ahead of time, go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and we will try to get to as many of them as possible. But now it is my pleasure to introduce our two panelists for today. Leading our discussion for doing business amidst COVID-19, we have Deetra Giles and Musadeq Khan, also known as MK. First, I'm going to, ladies first, always. Miss Deetra U. Giles received her undergraduate from Mercer University, where she has returned and was recently the recipient, like 2 weeks ago, recipient of the Excellence in Teaching Award as Faculty of the Year. Faculty of the Year, this lady right here. She received her master's and her MBA from Kennesaw State University, where the Panthers beat the Owls in 2018, at Georgia State U. She is an international consultant, best-selling author, incredibly highly sought after keynote speaker. Deetra has been traveling the world for the past 13 years as the founder and the chief bridge architect of ExecuPrep, a global brand that provides coaching, leadership development, and performance improvement in the workplace. Deetra has worked across multiple industries with hundreds of clients and thousands of leaders worldwide. This lady's incredible, and you will find out why very shortly. Deetra has been featured as a keynote speaker for a few small organizations you may have heard of, like the Centers for Disease Control, the Army Corps of Engineers, and Salvation Army, which have yielded impeccable results. She uses her formal business education and years of experience, which happen to include 8 years as the director of HR at director in HR at Georgia State University, to motivate, empower, and celebrate her clients as they achieve their desired outcomes. Ms. Giles is the author of Unstuck, Discovering Career Limiting Actions, and the soon to be released Breaking Good Habits, and many featured articles. She is a two-time TEDx speaker. Her first TEDx was Employee-preneur, which happens to be one of my favorite topics, despite me getting tongue-tied right now. Employee-preneur and taboo topics at the workplace, which you can both find both of them on her website, deetragiles.org. Virtual round of applause for Ms. Deetra Giles. Thank you. And also with us today, we have Musadeq M.K. Khan. According to his bio, MK received a degree in partying from the New Indian School before pursuing an electrical engineering degree from the University of South Alabama, where the Panthers beat the Jaguars in 2019 and 2017, before he upgraded to becoming a Panther and earning a degree in computer information systems here at Georgia State University. Passionate product and business leader, who is obsessed with building products that everyone loves to use. MK believes in the power of people, and his ambition is to work alongside and learn from world class talent every day. MK is currently the lead entrepreneur in residence for the Main Street Entrepreneur Seed Fund, which, if you have not heard about the Main Street program at the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Institute, I need you to look that up. We have made news all across Atlanta, and it's definitely something that you want to be a part of here at Georgia State. MK is a serial entrepreneur who loves developing and scaling businesses from just an idea into actual products and services that fit the need and scale to the right market segment. He has taken multiple ideas and has transformed them into growth businesses. In 2002, MK founded Prominus to help hospitals manage their receivables. And in 2008, MK founded Vertico. Did I pronounce that correctly, MK? Vertico?
Verdico.
Verdico, thank you. A
It's
cloud based.
two words, verde, which is green, and eco.
Oh, okay. Verdico. Bird Eco, a cloud based analytic platform that energy utilities use to manage and analyze data to gain operational efficiencies. They were acquired in 2014 by Census, the company that helps Georgia Power and Cobb EMC measure and manage the electrical grid. MK has also led innovation teams for large corporations such as Best Buy and Itron. In addition to his role at Georgia State, he's a member of Atlanta Tech Village and works with startups and entrepreneurs nationwide. MK is also currently the Chief Revenue Officer for Grid 4C, an AI startup based in Tel Aviv. Virtual round of applause for MK. Thank you, thank you, thank you both for being with us today. As I shared with both of you, this um, program came about because the students just had questions. They had questions. They wanted to know what should they be doing right now. Um, what should they be doing? How should they be running their business? And so we're going to let them drive this conversation. Um, Before we kick it off with the questions, I'd love for each of you just to say hello to everyone. And I've provided a lot of your background, but if there was anything else that you'd like to add, this would be your opportunity. So Mrs. Giles, you first, please.
I will start. Can you hear me well?
Yes, you sound wonderful.
Wonderful. So the biggest thing for me, you pretty much hit it on the head. So I'm like, I need a copy of this recording because that made it sound extremely amazing. So I don't know about MK, but I'm gonna need to copy that for my
Yes,
new
ma'am.
bio. But the biggest thing I want to add to that is as an entrepreneur, just like you are experiencing right now, and MK, I'm sure will chime in, we have had to go through tough situations before. This is the first time that we get the luxury of having a global piece of company to go along with these hardships with us, but it's not the first time or the last time that our businesses have or will encounter hardships. So the idea of being able to pivot and adjust quickly is an entrepreneurial skill that we all have to be masters at. And I've had to.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I need that recording too. That was really great. And I definitely did get a degree in party. Uh, you'll know when you meet me. But I think Dieter hit it on the head, the nail on the head. That for most of us or many of our student population or recent alumni, this is probably one of the first major crises that they will remember and experience. Um, as I am advising and coaching the entrepreneurs in the Main Street program, uh, I tell them one thing. I said that I tell them that this is probably one of the first major crises that they're facing, but it won't be the last. In my lifetime, I've been through four crises myself. Starting at, I don't remember much, but when I was 5 years old, I was in Iraq. The Iraq-Iran war started, and our town was, destroyed, in the early days of the war, and we had to leave. In 1990, I grew up in Kuwait, and then in 1990, Kuwait was invaded by Iraq, and then we were again pushed out of our homes to refugee camps. And then I came here as a refugee myself. And then in 2001, I got married to my wife in New York and flew to Atlanta from New York on September 10th, 2001, hoping to go back to work the next day. That never happened. Then in 2009, there was a financial crisis. And then here we are in 2019. So right now, I'm getting ready for 2030. If you follow the data and the trend, every 10 years, something happens in my life. So I'm just getting, so one thing I will tell everybody is that, crises are hard, but there are things, there are a lot of things that come, great things that come out of crises. And because that's just the nature of human spirit. I started, as Erica explained, I started 4 companies. Three of them were successful. One of them was a failure. I learned more from my failure. But the successful ones, I started in times of crisis, and there's a lot of things, that things as an entrepreneur you can take advantage during a crisis. So the 3 successful ones was started during, right after 2000, right after the dot-com bust and 9/11 attacks. The second one was started during during a financial crisis, and so both of them were successful, and we had good exits. So again, there are no, in the times of crisis, there are silver linings, and as entrepreneurs, we need to find those, sort of points of silver linings and take advantage of them.
Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm so sorry. We're going to send good vibes into the universe and prayers that 2030 will be an amazing year for you.
Thank
we
you.
don't we want we don't want another repeat. Well, I'd love to just kind of dive right in. Many of the people that have joined in today are members at Launch GSU, some even very new members of Launch. And I would just love, I shared where you are now, but I would love for each of you to maybe spend 2 minutes just telling everyone about your entrepreneur journey. What led you to becoming an entrepreneur and where you are today?
I'll jump in. You said ladies first. So first, I'll chime in directly with what MK said. What we often don't talk about are those failures, and it's not that we don't talk about them; is that we don't talk about them in the moment. They're so great to talk about afterwards. In the moment, we don't post on Facebook, "Hey, business is really struggling right now. Hey, don't know if we're gonna make it." And like MK, I've started a business. I actually have the very first dollar. I keep it on my desk of my very first business, which was one of the worst ideas I've ever had, and was a miserable failure. And I learned so much from starting a bad idea and tanking a business that now I am, first of all, I was no longer afraid to start because I realized that failure did not mean death. We often equate like, oh my gosh, if this fails, life is going to end. And you're like, actually, it's not going to end. You may not be as comfortable as you want to be, and you may spend a little bit of time homeless, but you know what? You're just hiking. you know,
There you go. It's all about perspective. All about
it's all
perspective.
about perspective. I'm a woman of nature, right? So you that those failures are the things that we wish to avoid, but they are the things that I had to learn to embrace because the feel of failure stops so much success. And when I got over my fear of failure, I learned that it didn't mean I stopped failing. It meant that I failed my way to the top. And I realized I was having way more successes than I was having failures. And my fear of failure, even when I failed, was like, wait a minute, these are stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. And so to get where I am, Erica will tell you, I had 2 babies at the same time. I started my current company, Execuprep, and was pregnant with my youngest child in 2007. And she was like, so for real, you going to start a business right now and you're doing like a couple of months? And I was like, what's the worst that could happen? The worst that can happen is by the time it's over, I'll at least have a baby, you know?
Right. Right.
And, and today here I am, running this international company where I literally go around the world. So my concern right now is I'm supposed to speak at a conference in Poland in July, and it's like, are we going? And upset that an engagement in Nairobi was canceled. So I went from being afraid of this failure and failing along the way to what I have right now. And even now, we're in the struggle with you all. What are we doing? How are we adjusting to these engagements? How my people still need to be paid, and they're concerned about where's this company going. So it's that fear that we have to live with, not necessarily get over, that makes us the success.
Okay, what led you to where you are today?
Yeah. So that was quite actually quite amazing to hear. Deetha talk about those the way you look at failures. Um, and she's right. So I think failure is not failure is actually one of the most you know important things that you go through as an entrepreneur, because those are the those are the events that force you to be creative, that force you to sort of you know to learn humility, and to really understand where are your weaknesses. Because at the end of the day, we as human beings, we are more inclined to show our successes and talk about our successes and strengths. We are somewhat you know feel ashamed to talk about where we didn't do great, where we failed. And it's just a part of how society kind of thinks, right? But really, I like to talk about failures and things that I did that didn't work. Because when I do that, again, when you're introducing me, my life's calling, I have found out, is to help entrepreneurs, as many of them as I can, because that gives me, the most pleasure, the most satisfaction, the most meaning, right? Because when I do that, and I can help an entrepreneur out, and the entrepreneur tells me how I have done it. That is the best thing. That is best and better than any amount of money I can make. Um, but in my lifetime, like I said, I've been through four different crises. I've started four companies, and during each of those crises, I thought that this is the worst it can get, and it got worse after that. And so at each point in time, um, the the things that that didn't break me, that didn't kill me, so to speak. At each point, that sort of gave me more confidence and made me stronger, right? And so, during each of the four companies, each of them were different. There was, it wasn't that, oh, I did the first one, now obviously I can do the second one. The second one was different than the first one. The second crisis was different than the first crisis. Uh, and so at each point in time, we keep on learning things, new things. And so one of the things about being an entrepreneur is never stop learning. And not only an entrepreneur, but anyone, right? Um, I think my kind of pet peeve is when I meet people who are know-it-alls, because I'm a learn-it-all person. Like like so, if somebody knows everything, then that basically you're dead. You stop learning, when you die. So the thing is, so from my entrepreneurial journey, those are all the, those are some of the things that I've learned you know, as I've been through, not only, starting companies, but also, starting companies during crisis times like this. And this is an opportunity for entrepreneurs, because this is the time. If you are building a company, you have the opportunity to find people that are extremely talented, that don't have work, that want to want to work. You have amazing companies out there that want to do different things. That entrepreneurs, executives, skills, you know, uh, um, technologists, right? Because at the end of the day, the success of your idea or your company is going to be the team that's behind it, right? In times of, in good times, people are out there happy, making money, getting paid. They're not interested in taking risks. But this situation is making people think, what else could go wrong? It's bad as it is. I'm just going to go and take a leap. And so this is a time for entrepreneurs to really be creative and take this opportunity to launch something that they've been thinking about.
That is awesome. And thank you. You teed up my first question. Just kind of let's piggyback and stay with that theme of opportunity right now. MK, what we've seen both sides of the scale. There are businesses that are unfortunately may never recover from this. But what industries do you see have the greatest opportunity right now? What success stories have you heard? Or do you have any ideas for these students who know they want to do something, but not really sure what direction to go into? Any suggestions?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that is so. You are right. Unfortunately, there will be many businesses, especially small businesses, that won't survive. That will go away, but the entrepreneurs will survive. The businesses may not work, but they're going to come out of it. They're going to move in a different direction. Number one, just it's two different things. It's the business itself, and then the entrepreneur, and the entrepreneurs will come up with something different. They will think creative. They will get creative. Um, I tell all my entrepreneurs that that I'm advising that this is the time to think about how do you leverage technology? Because technology is the greatest equalizer, right? There is no because every technology, by the way, is not a business. Technology is an enabler to a business. Technology is a means to an end. And so every business, if you look at the Main Street companies that we manage, there are companies that are technology companies that are built around technology, and there are companies that are built around your traditional, things like a coffee shop, a STEM school, a teetering school, a sewing school. But all of these businesses can leverage technology to really move the business, to really leverage the times that we're in. So at the end of the day, the businesses that are going to survive, that are pivoting and and using technology as a leverage to move on to the next level. For example, we have a school. We funded a company that taught stylists and designers how to sew. Now, all of that was being done physically. So the entrepreneur, because of this, nobody can get together. So the entrepreneur, what they did was they shipped the sewing machine, to the students and put them in different places, and then they leverage online technology like Zoom and WebEx and took their classes online. And so now what they're doing is they're taking the money that we've given them, they're investing it in actually building an online platform. So all of a sudden, that same business that was really designed around classroom setting is now going online. But that is a business that is going to survive and perhaps even thrive. Um, and there's a number of examples like that, right? And so, my advice, is that at the end of the day, figure out a way to leverage technology because every business can use technology. Because technology is the greatest equalizer. Technology brings people together. We've seen that, that done through the internet, that done through social media, and by the way, this crisis, there is, the end of this crisis is going to be unlike any other end to any other crisis, because at the end of this crisis, the world is going to look very different. People are going to think different, and so this is the time to really start thinking. Okay, when this ends, what does my business look like, or me as an entrepreneur, what do I need to think of?
That is awesome. And Deetra, believe it or not, I did not cue MK to say that. However, you the thought bubble over your head is the same as the thought bubble over mine. This is a phenomenal opportunity to let everyone on the call know that I have been working with Deetra over the past couple of weeks, and she has come up with the amazing idea of gifting her time and talent to the members of Launch and Georgia State University to put together a mini program in the month of May on how you can take your business online.
Wow.
Some students may want to look into a new industry, but Dietrich's approach is okay, before we do something new, why don't you take what you have and let's see how we can convert that online? And it may not, the answers may not be in front of you, but um, that was what Deetra proposed to me. She said, I want to do something for the students at Georgia State. And um, this is your program. I could talk, it's almost like I don't need you. I could talk about you so much, but I want you to tell the students what you are thinking about launching for next month.
Absolutely. And so, just to speak to that really quickly, is one of the things I'm telling many of my clients is modify, don't eliminate. And because we're so in our head about the way things have to be, it has to be this way, it has to be this way. And we can't see outside of the paradigm or the box we've set up around how it has to be. And there are many options you have. For example, one of the things that Erica knows is I have a side function of my business that I love. It's not a major portion, but it's called A Book and a Beat. And it's a place where we go and we read a book and we bring in a makeup artist to teach people how to do their makeup. That was a face-to-face session. And my first thought was, how can we modify? Well, now the makeup artist is saying, hey, I can do this. I can get the books mailed out, and it's now going to virtual, and it's better than it was before because they're saying, let's do a series instead of doing one whole thing. We could do this adjustment. So really step back from the idea you have about your business and say, how can this be modified either for an online platform or something else? Another example is I have a client that owns a restaurant. Devastated. This happened. They were devastated. What am I supposed to do? And I gave them a simple response. Ask your people. I never thought about that. One of her people came up with the idea of, hey, my husband is a nutritionist and a personal trainer. People are looking for ways to get meal prep during this time. People are tired of cooking, XYZ. She tried it and is having major success, right? So really jump out of your head about what you think it's supposed to look like and how can you modify versus eliminate. You may not even need to start a new thing. There's so many adjustments that may be available to you. And so I went to Erica and said, hey, these students need to know this. I'm charging my clients for this, but these students are new and this is something we can do with Georgia State, and I'm not worried about. Let's just do something for them.
One of the beautiful part there, this time has been devastating. Let there be no misunderstanding. This has been devastating for many families. However, there's always that rose that manages to crack through the concrete, and this is one of them. Were it not for the quarantine and us being at home, Deetra and I would not have been spending this much time together. This idea may never have even come up. And it's forced us. Who would ever think that you can do a sewing class virtually? Like, that's ridiculous. That's silly talk. But the one thing the quarantine has done is forced us very quickly and taught us what we can do.
Hmm.
I was joking this morning during the introductions about Kennesaw and South Alabama in football, but that's because what happens tonight? The draft.
The draft.
Virtual from Roger Goodell's basement. Who would have ever thought, if someone would have said 2 years ago, oh, we're going to do a virtual draft, they would have blown them off. Well, guess what? It's getting ready to happen tonight. And the WNBA did an amazing job with it last weekend. There were some hiccups, but that's to be expected. But it got done. And these young ladies' careers are about to begin, and it's amazing. So I say all that to say, like you said, you have to take a step back, right? And look at the bigger picture.
And the quicker you can step back, and we know as entrepreneurs, it's always about being ahead of the competition. So the person who is the most agile wins, right? And so the quicker you can jump to, how can I modify? The quicker you're ahead of the game. So let's look at a real world example. I know many of you are following DJs. D Nice DJ D Nice killed the game, but he was the first person to do it. So everybody that's coming behind him, they're jumping on, but you don't see them getting 40 and 50,000 people. You don't see Michelle Obama calling them and saying, "Hey, will you advertise? Go vote on your screen. Hey, will you?" You don't see the NBA calling those people and saying, "Hey, will you do a live for us?" Because he was agile. He was the first to say, "You know what? I can take my DJing platform, modify it," because who thought that we would be shaking our butts inside of our living room on Instagram? We're doing it. We're having these virtual parties in our plugging our phones or our computers into our TV, having a live broadcast with our glass of wine because DJ D Nice said, "Let me modify, not eliminate. I'm not going to start a new business. I'm a DJ. I'm going to keep DJing. How do I adjust that to meet my client's current need?"
And I bet, without knowing him at all, I bet his calendar is full probably for the next 3 years. He's not going to have to worry about anything.
Listen, I know an event planner that works with him, and she called him and said, "Don't trip. Please do not become unaffordable for me." Because she does a lot of large events, and she's like, "Do not." She called him and said, "Do not become unaffordable. I do not have time for you to get the big head and become unaffordable to me." But he's already getting virtual calls, so he's getting paid for events right now in our current environment, and getting paid more for these virtual events than he was getting paid for live events before this.
Wow. Now, so the flip side of that, we talked about failing, and of course, when you use the word fail, usually the predecessor word is fear, the fear of failing. A lot of students and people, you were afraid to start. It's like, oh my God, what do I do? What if I fail? One of the questions that came up the first time, and it's come up again already, is how do you handle these insecurities? This is an incredibly scary time. It's a scary time for us as adults. You can imagine how scary it is for these students who are just trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do about class, my friends, my boyfriend? What's your recommendation on how should they handle their insecurities while trying to start this business and be nimble and pivot and agile?
I kind of like how MK started when he told his story. The reality is life is and business are parallel. Life is like the stock market. You have to ride it out for the long haul to get the big win. It goes up, it crashes, it goes that. I mean, like that's the way it is, and business is going to be no different. I will tell people, I tell my clients, there is no reality to the idea that you're going to eliminate fear. What you have to do is become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And the more comfortable you become with still moving in that state, the quicker it goes. But life is like the stock market. It's up, down, crash, but you are in it for the long haul, and that's how the big wins happen. Don't pull out just because it dipped, because in that dip, there's going to be a rise, and that's when the big hits happen.
MK, I know
Also,
you and Jameen did some very innovative things around dealing with insecurities. You like to share some of that?
yeah, I want to start by saying the first thing is the most important thing is to to um, to accept the situation, and the place that we're in, right? It's kind of like that, 5 steps of grief, right? Denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and acceptance, right? You have to accept where you are first, right? You have to, instead of saying, it'll get better, and then we'll go back to normal. The reality is, it's just the opposite, right? Because and even the normal is going to be different, so the thing is to accept and understand that. And the sooner you do that, you will then start thinking, okay, now then then how do I operate as an entrepreneur? What are the things that I do as an entrepreneur? And so, you know, what Dito is saying is, failing, if you are not willing to fail, then you're not willing to try. If you're not willing to try, then that's the opposite of being an entrepreneur. If you want everything to be safe, if you want everything to be exact, if you want everything to be, sort of, uh, like, you know,
Perfect and in line and in
perfect,
order.
right, right, then, then that's a different lifestyle, right? That's you have to do things differently. Um, you know, if you want everything to be known and by the book, then that's different. An entrepreneur's lifestyle, an entrepreneur's thought process is very different. An entrepreneur's thought process is, there, I will fail, and I because I am going to try, you know, new things all the time, right? I'll try 10 things and I'll fail 9 times. I'll succeed once, and that's okay. But I'll keep trying. And so again, you cannot be afraid to fail. If you have the entrepreneurial mindset. Second thing is that you know there are always a different way of doing things, right? Jameen and I, we thought, this program is ending. Now, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do a retreat. We get everybody together, and then COVID hit. Nobody's going to get together, right? So basically, we took the whole retreat, online. So last 2 weeks, we have been meeting with entrepreneurs in a group, just like this, and doing a virtual retreat of, how do things go? What did you learn? And then what we have done is we have done sessions for them of how to lead through a crisis, how to raise capital. We've brought on guests, on the show or into the sessions, and got their feedback. And so all of a sudden, you know, you know, the entrepreneurs are like, okay, this is not so bad. This not, this may not be a session in a room, where we're doing the usual things. This is equally better. I mean, good, right? Or maybe even better. Um, we've been mandated. We're going to start another program here pretty soon, and we have been mandated by Jennifer, who's director of BNI, to rethink how we're going to do the whole program for the foreseeable future online. We're going to start another cohort, much like the one we did before, except this is going to be, over video. And but I am, extremely confident and bullish that this next program, even if we can do all the things we did on, in the Main Street program, physically online. We can do all the workshops online. And as a matter of fact, it's going to be, I think it's going to be much better for the entrepreneurs because now the entrepreneurs don't have to leave their business, half an hour early to be somewhere. They don't have to stress about that. Nobody, I mean, is banging on them for, like getting to work on time. We could do these sessions at night. We could do these sessions, in the day. We could do it anytime. And more importantly, they could go and, watch these sessions all over again because they're going to be recorded. And so all of a sudden, as I'm designing the program, next program, I'm telling Jennifer that this next cohort is going to be equally or even maybe more successful because we have removed some of the barriers of time, and by the way, time is the most important thing. We spend all our lives, all our time making money, but no amount of money can make us any time. So the time you spend on things that you do that are meaningful to you and your lifestyle is the most important thing. So don't force yourself to do something that because to spend time on something that you go back and say, man, that was a waste of half an hour. That was a waste of an hour, right? This time that I'm spending with you and the entrepreneurs here is meaningful to me because I want to do this. This time, because after I do this, I'll feel good about myself. I feel good about sharing my experiences, and so that's sort of some of the things that you think through very very carefully about where you spend your time.
Speaking of time, can you think of 2 or 3 things, best practices that you'd like to share with the folks online? what should they be doing with their time right now?
Awesome. So I'll tell you what I'm doing with my time, right? So one thing is I'm realizing that all of a sudden people have a lot more time on their hands, right? Because they're at home, they can't go anywhere, they're here. So what I'm doing is I'm making a list of people that I want to meet, new people, not just people that I know, and I'm just reaching out, right? So, in my, I'm thinking, okay, what are the things I'm going to be doing, down the road? I'll be starting a new cohort of, Main Street. What are the things that I need to do to help the entrepreneurs for that cohort? I need to introduce them to investors. I need to introduce them to, mentors. So what I'm doing is I'm reaching out to investors that I haven't met before, that I haven't talked to before, and connecting with them and sending them and saying, hey, this is what I am, this is what I do. Do you have 30 minutes out of your day? And guess what they do? Because what else are they doing, right? You just get on the Zoom call and then just have an introduction. All of a sudden, so I'm sort of using that time to sort of expand my network. Imagine that, right? Before we thought, how do you expand your network when you can't leave your house? But here
Mhm.
we are. Here I am. I've met at least three, uh, five new people last week, like new people that I had not met before. Just
Wow.
reached out to them on LinkedIn, connected with them, and asked them to have a video call. Um, what else? Uh, you know, I am, every day I do three things. Three things. The first thing, is I write out, and it's really quick. I write out three things that I'm really grateful for, right? In this crisis, that that how privileged I am, in many respects, family, health, money, whatever that is, income, um, the second thing that I do is I, make an, my goal is to help at least three people every day in some respects. And for example, that could be doing grocery for somebody. Um, it could be helping an entrepreneur out, through their thought process, helping them solve a problem, and giving them mentorship, advice, um, and then the last thing is, there's, you know, we have a list of to dos in our list, right? What I look for is a force multiplier, right? I don't want to accomplish everything on my list. I want to accomplish only one thing. And that one thing is basically, if I do it, then I've accomplished my day. I've completed my day. And so I have one thing every day that I want to accomplish, you know. And so those are like in sort of those, in that order, right? Three things that I'm grateful for. Helping three, at least doing three things that help other people out, and then that one force multiplier that if I check that off, I've accomplished my day, right? And
That's
that's
great. That's amazing, amazing advice. And we all, I think, could benefit from that. Deetra, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? 2 to 3 things that your input on top of what MK just shared. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I try to mute so you don't hear any background noise because I have the Giles children. But I said MK stole a lot of the good ones. I've typed in the chat, preach MK, because he is really dropping some gems for you all. So I hope you all have your notepads. The other thing I wrote down is a big thing about success right now is scheduling. Um, Everyone and everything in your house needs to be on a schedule. Here's where I see most people fail during this time is that they either overwork or think they have all day. So they don't have parameters around when I start and when I stop. So one of the most recent things my children have done, I don't think you know about this, Erica, yet, but they are now beekeepers. And so we have a beehive, right? So they had to, I'm that crazy parent, so I know, right? So they had to do a business proposal. I made them get dressed, pull out together a full slide deck and do a pitch for the investors, which is my husband and I. And they pitched their idea for starting to keep bees and have a bee business. And they did well on their pitch deck. We're investors. And I watched the bees. And what's funny is we talk about as busy as a bee, but the bees consistently start getting busy about 9 o'clock in the morning, and they consistently stop about 3:30, 4 o'clock every afternoon. And now, in that time, every day, they produce enough for them to maintain themselves when they cannot leave the hive and work, right? They produce enough to get through because during the wintertime, they don't go out. They don't go when it's cold. I'm like, I should be like, y'all, you don't go out when it's cold. You don't go out when it's raining. But during that busy time, they consistently build up enough to sustain themselves for when they can't work. So we should be the same. So what I'm telling my clients is you have to have a schedule. When do you start? When do you stop? And everyone in your house needs to be on one. Also, one of the things that MK talked about is making sure that now is a great time to reach out to people. The people that you think are inaccessible, they are dying to talk to somebody different because they're tired of the people in their house. They're tired of being on a conference call with the same old people every day. So before it was like, I'm so busy, I have to meet with this person. They're tired of meeting with those people. They would love to jump on a call with another voice. So now is a great time. And also remembering those RGAs, which I call the revenue generating activities. Every day I'm focused on what are my RGAs that I am doing today? What are my revenue generating activities? And that doesn't mean it will make me a dollar that day. It means it may be working towards. So some of those relationships are turning into RGAs. We talked about pivoting and modifying, not eliminating. Hey, how can I modify what I currently do to meet this client's needs? Let's jump on the phone call because the best person to ask is the client. Hey, we normally do this with you. What do you need right now, and how can we meet that need? You'll be amazed. My clients, all the pivots I've made came directly from my clients. Me saying, hey, what do you need right now? Well, Deetra, here's what we really need on the HR side of things. We need a plan for what to do with these people when they leave, how to come back. And we just don't have the capacity to keep up with these things that are changing every single day. If you could be our point person for these new legislations that are coming out, these new demands that are coming out, that wasn't what I did before because I'm HR, but now it's like, hey, here's an update. It keeps me in the face of my clients, and when they have a need, they call me. So really think about what that scheduling looks like. Everyone needs to be on the schedule, dogs, kids, everyone, and also what those RGAs you're going to do. And one of the things that MK said that I really want to tack on to is that one thing. Because you have time now, don't inundate yourself with a to-do list that's 50 miles long. Pick a thing to do, make it significant, make it impactful, but be like the bees. If you're like the bees, you can't get significant things done, 5 significant things done in that time period. Have a schedule and look at those RGAs.
Okay. I'd love to just dive a little deeper into a key thing that you said a few moments ago, focus. So with
Mm,
the schedule, I am guilty of I have monkey mind. So my brain's just constantly going. So I'm always writing stuff down. So how do you focus? How can, these students have the added pressure of managing school on top of the startup. How can they focus and compartmentalize school, business, family? Any
So
suggestions?
I am an avid reader, and one book there are a few books that I read annually, sometimes twice a year, and the book The One Thing is one of those books. And it talks about the importance of identifying that one thing that by if doing that thing, you will eliminate or lessen the need for everything else on your list. And so when I talk about focusing, I really teach my clients about how to focus on that one thing. Make your list, sure, make tons of lists. But when you go to that list, look at that list and say, which of these things, by doing them, will have the most impact such that it will either eliminate everything else or lessen the need of doing those things. And once you get that, now if I can take 5 things and wrap it into this one, because by doing this, these others go away, it makes it so much easier to focus because now I can check 5 things off instead of one little thing at a time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's awesome. You mentioned that this was on my list, but again, since you brought it up, you mentioned the one thing books and two other book suggestions for some of the students that may have some extra reading time on their hands.
So another one that has been, oh my gosh, it has changed my life. And here's the deal, y'all. You may not be able to get it digitally because it's that old, but it's worth it. It's called Selling to Veto, and it's Very Important Top Officer. It's VITO. That book was a game changer for me because it taught me about the importance of making sure you're talking to the right person, number one, how to get to the right person, and what the right person has time for and wants to hear. It changed my conversion rate significantly once I read and applied that book. I used to have all of these conversations and they didn't yield what I wanted them to yield in the time frame I wanted. When I read that book, my conversion from conversation to contract increased. It's that good. It really is that good. And it gives you practice. It's not just one of those theoretical, oh, this esoteric idea of who you should be and how you should be as a business owner. It's downright practical. Go do this and then come back and read this chapter. And then go do this and come back and read this chapter. It's an all-time favorite.
Awesome. MK, what are your top three reading tools?
Yeah, I actually I'm a better listener than a reader. So I do all of my reading through Audible. Because I have I have ADD, so it's for me it's hard to sit in one place and just read something. But before I go into that, I wanted to share one more thought of what Deetra just talked about in terms of how to focus. I kind of and I don't know, and perhaps Dietrich, you could tell me if this is right or wrong, but I actually look at it from the other from the opposite way. Is that uh, what are the things if I don't do won't matter? Like what are the things I don't need to do, right? Because as as entrepreneurs, as human beings, we there's a whole bunch of things we want to do, and we're like, if we don't do this, but then you sit down and think, okay, if I don't do this, does anything else break? No, probably not. So again, I don't need to worry about it or stress about it. And so basically, I go through a process of elimination of the things that I don't need to do, which really leaves me with two or three things. Okay, these are the most important things I need to focus on right now, and I'll just get on that. So that's one thought I wanted to share with the entrepreneurs in the room. Um, my three books. So one of the books I really, I'm reading right now is a book written by a local entrepreneur, Jeff Hillmeyer. He started a company. He's actually leading a company called Dragon Army right now, and well-known entrepreneur. He's had a number of exits. He's done nonprofits. Just a really amazing and accomplished entrepreneur locally in Atlanta. And he wrote a book. It's called 5 Day Turnaround. And in that he talks about how he goes in in this fictional character that goes into this huge company and basically works with this VP who's plagued by bureaucracy and slowness and groupthink, and making that vice president of whatever or senior vice president or the leader of that company think on if from an entrepreneur's angle and turn it around. And he does this over 5 days, just 5 days. So which is really and just really I'm halfway through the book and it's really compelling and it's important. I like it because I'm an entrepreneur, but I deal with and as entrepreneurs, you will deal with bigger companies, you will deal with corporations, you will do business with like Fortune 500s, and you will face this problem of too big, doesn't want to think fast, doesn't want to move fast, is afraid to, really make hard decisions because they'll lose their jobs. And so it kind of walks you through that process, and is really, is I mean, I'm learning a lot from that. The second book, I've suggested to my entrepreneurs at the Main Street is that, at the end of the day, the success of a business and the success of a company is dependent on the team. The team is basically led by, by a leader. And so, if the the team that you lead and the way they function is a determinant factor, one of the most important determinant factors. Actually, I would say the soul, because everything else, goes from that. Is the team, is how they lead and how they operate. And so there's a book by um, uh, Patrick Lencioni, Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And again, I like the books that are less, sort of telling you what to do, and sort of, is written from the lens of fictional characters, of how they function, and it makes it more interesting for me, at least, because I'm not a great person to read. I never read instructions. I just, first of all, I'm a guy, so, I never take directions. I'm terrible at that. And my wife was like, "Can we ask?" Like, "No, I got this." And then we go around sometimes figure it out, right? So just saying, right? For the men out there, right? And so, so it's written from the lens of a fictional character. Again, how do you, what are the five things you really need to get, put together as a team to really lead and operate, right? And be effective. Talk about core values and culture. This is called Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. And the third one, again, from an entrepreneur's angle, all the entrepreneurs here one day will have a business that is bigger than what, where they are now. And so there's a book that I've been reading. It's called, Leaders Eat Last. It's by Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek, if you don't, if you haven't watched his TED Talk, you should go and, just type in Simon Sinek, start with why. And he talks about, people talk about what and how and all the time. And it's still, and so do I, still, but people really don't think about why they're doing what they're doing. Like, and that changes your outlook and narrative and your operating, rhythm once you understand the why. And so in Leaders Eat Last, he talks about how effective leaders, motivate teams, not just by money, and not even by, money, but with the cause. And so those are the three books I suggest and I'm reading. I've read.
Amen is one of my favorite TED Talks behind Employeepreneur, of course. But I've watched that TED Talk a million times, and still, even though I probably could recite the script, still every time he sucks you in. So definitely suggest that you guys take a look at that. Start with Why, Simon Sinek, and the book was really good. Also, I had a chance to read Start with Why. Leaders Eat Last is on my list. But I mean, at the end of the day, you really hit the nail on the head when you talk about the team. And I tell entrepreneurs that come talk to me all the time, the idea is fine, but people aren't buying into your idea. They're not giving you money for the idea. They're giving money to you. And I, strongly suggest that many of these students watch Shark Tank while there's, some element of Hollywood there. The reality is they're buying into you, because a phenomenal management team with a mediocre idea will always outperform a phenomenal idea with a mediocre management team. It's all about the execution and the management team, which is why you hear those sharks ask those questions about the leaders in the group. So thank you for those. I see some comments in the chat saying, "I barely have time to read the stuff for school. Don't give me anything else to read."
You know, I saw that, so I want to directly chime in on that.
Okay.
When people saying, "I barely have time to read, I barely have time for this extra stuff." Here's the reality: school right now, you are working. That's what school is. School is a job. We are always employed. And so school will be replaced with something else. There will be always be a reason for you to not do what it is you think you should be doing. Like my husband's like MK, he's like, Deidre, I am not reading that book with you. Do they have an audio version of that? Yeah. Find and make the time. And I read because one, I like it, but two, it makes me stop doing other stuff because I am that person that will work myself into a rut. So reading is the time that I set aside. And didn't I tell you everything has to be scheduled? It is on my schedule. I promise you, you are no more busy than me running a business, two kids. One of them is in band, color guard, Rockdale leadership. One of them is an avid animal child, so I have to chase him around the house and remind him, do not pick up snakes. We are in Georgia. Some of those are venomous. Well, I say poisonous, and he corrects me. Snakes aren't poisonous, they're venomous. All of that. But you have to decide what matters most to you and make the time for that because school will simply be replaced with something else. This is life. There is consistency. I tell my kids, you have what you can handle at your age. So I never tell my children, what do you have to be stressed about? You don't know about bills. They have what their minds can handle as far as stress is concerned. So life will replace and work and business will replace school. So if you don't have the time now, I promise you graduation will not change a thing.
And again, everything you figure out what works for you. For MK and I, Audible are our tools. And I can show you right here, I can just scroll. There are just books and books and books in here. But you're
See,
right.
I can show you my Kindle.
Right. We make time for what's important to us. And the difference is the word have. You may not have time, but she hit the nail on the head. You make time. You make time. And, this quarantine is something that many of us will never, ever experience again. So try to take advantage of it. And the key to that, I believe, is scheduling.
And
Um,
it's not an admonishment either, because we do recognize that life is crazy busy. And in the midst of all this, I'm thinking, people are saying I'm bored. I'm like, I'm sorry, where is that in the dictionary? They left it out of mine. How did I get the wrong Webster's dictionary? But it's not an admonishment, it's just a cautionary tale to say, make time for the things that matter the most to you. And if it's not reading, that's okay. That's not your thing and it's fine. But if you feel like it's something that you need to add and it's that important that it needs to happen, then go ahead and make the time for it.
Make it work because we make time for what's important to us.
Yeah, I think I wanted to I'm a alumni myself. I went to Georgia State. I graduated in 2000. And so for the students here, one thing I want to say is that the most important investment you can ever make is in yourself. And you know, again, from an entrepreneurial perspective, you should always be in a learn it all mode, right? And so, however you learn, if it's reading a book, that's fine. If it's watching a TED talk, that's fine. If it's listening to a book, that's fine. But make invest in yourself. Like, you know, the the time that you have right now, the things that you're doing is kind of your job, right? As a student, you're doing it because if you don't do it, you're going to get penalized. You're going to get a bad grade, or you're not going to graduate. You're not going to get a degree. But do things that you do it out of passion and love and obsession. Spend time with yourself, like use a me time, right? Because those are the things that you're doing it for your pleasure and not to achieve some objective. Other than sort of making yourself whole. So I think reading is one way of doing it because or maybe listening to a book because it is kind of making you better, making you taking you a step further than where you were before. Even if you spend 15 minutes, whether before you go to bed or sometime in the afternoon, or in the morning, over coffee or whatever it is, even if it's 15 minutes, that 15 minutes is that you've spent is going to be probably the most, you know, important time in that day that you've done, because you've done it for yourself and nobody forced you to do it. You didn't have to do it, but you did it for yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you both for that. So hopefully you guys heard that and you find a way, you do what works for you. Um, to pull something up, but uh, I love it when you pull up an app and it automatically starts playing. Um, I'll bring this up in a minute. Um, one other topic I absolutely want to hit on is money. Right now, that's the biggest concern is money. And many of the students have expressed a concern, two concerns to me. One, this is one person said they felt like this was not a good time to go look for funding. So I'd love to hear your thought on, is this a good time to try to solicit funding? If so, how? Or if not, how do you approach the whole funding conversation? The other side of it is, if they're not looking for funding but they're selling, how do you start calling customers now? What's the best way to sell and not be tone deaf or insensitive to what everybody else has going on? I'd like to start that question first.
Uh, I don't know, DJ, you want to go first? Um,
I'll let you handle the funding side because that's not my expertise.
yeah, so actually, I'm dealing with it right now. With again, with the Main Street, with the Main Street companies. Um, so first of all, I'll tell you, people, investors are investing, right? They are putting capital in. The question is, if do you want that capital, and how much do you really want it or need it? Because here's the thing, it's a it's a buyer's market, right? In the capital world, right? In other words, yes, investors are investing, but you're going to get a raw deal, right? Because you need, if you need it, if you really need the money and you can't do without it, because at the end of the day, investors are looking for the best deal for themselves. Now, good investors realize that they can't dilute the founder or founders to a point that it's no longer viable for them, or makes sense for them to really build a company, because they want founders need, at the end of the day, they're entrepreneurs because they want to have skin in the game, and because they're doing it because they love what they do, and so if they don't have skin in the game, then they can go and get a job somewhere else, right? Paying maybe even more money. So if good investors know that, but still they're going to push that needle as much as they can to get as much, of the deal, in their favor. That could be taking percentage in the company. That could be taking control of the company, right? And so so that's the first thing. The second thing is that, you know, when the raising money process is not a 5-minute call. I need money. I call, hey, I need money, would you invest? Like, if raising capital is a 3 to 6 month process, and even longer than that. So in the entrepreneur world, we have a saying, you raise money when you don't need it, right? Is that you start building relationships with with investors that you want to raise money from way ahead, right? And even when you don't need money, you do intros, grab a coffee, introduce yourself, and you build that relationship over time. And so when that time comes, hey, you're ready to raise the capital, you start sort of building that process, and sort of it's just like a sales process, right? You have a CRM, you have prospecting, and you're moving down the funnel onto a close. So that's the thing about it. So if you're raising money right now, yes, you can, but you have to be ready to accept the terms of investment in this environment. You don't really need money, get creative, and find money from somewhere else, whether it be grants, whether it be loans, PPP loans, whatever that is, or the best of it is customers, right? And from a customer perspective, don't try to sell the customer, try to add value to the customer, right? And so I'll give you an example, like one of like the company I was talking about, Self, right? They have taken all of their materials, all of their resources, and converted them into building masks. And all of a sudden, they're adding value to, to the crisis, to, the people who need them. But guess also what? People are talking about them. People are writing about them, and people know about them. And so when the time comes again, she will get more customers. She will get more, students, right? So that's one thing. So figure out how you can add value. Call your customer. Don't try to sell them. Try to add value to them.
So I want to piggyback on something that MK just said, which I think many entrepreneurs miss the boat on. Do not say, and this is inside this crisis and outside of this crisis, do not sell, add value. Because when you add value, your customer will come to you because they want more of that value. Prime example, when this started, I got calls from my customers and I said, hey, I'm going to do 10 videos. So I recorded 10 videos, 5 were for employees, 5 were for people who were leaders. And it just simply went through 5 quick videos on how to effectively work from home. It was free. Anybody could get it. They could sign up for both of them or just one of them. And what happened? People said, Deetra, are you crazy? You're giving away free content. I mean, they weren't long. They were like 10-minute, 15 minutes max videos. This is 10 videos. Are you kidding me? Sure. What happened? People went, they called, hey, we need what you're talking about simply by adding value. And one of the questions that Erica asked, statements that she made that I think is very important to think about is don't be tone deaf. So really ask questions about where your customer is and what they need, because here's the reality. Everyone is not being impacted by this situation equally. So some people, oddly enough, it sounds crazy, but they're doing just fine. Their income has not been impacted. Of course, they're quarantined with everyone else, but they may not be having financial difficulties. So I have a very good friend that owns a company called Beloved Box. Well, this is a self-care box with candles and shea butter and skin creams. If she went to someone who's furloughed, waiting on their stimulus check to come and waiting for their unemployment to come through and say, hey, you want to buy a $60 Beloved box? That's tone deaf. But when she goes to someone else and says, hey, I see that you're doing X, which is like a Beloved box, it's not. So really be mindful of who your people are, who your client is, and what they may be going through, and then know who to send your offers to and know how to best help them. Because what she also did was said, hey, some of you are my best clients. I want to send you these boxes to give out to some of your employees free of charge. Don't worry about it. You've been very good to me about buying these as client gifts or employee gifts for employee appreciation. Here are a few boxes just to give away. So that's how you want to think about adding value and not being tone deaf. Where's your client? What do they need? And how does what I'm offering add value? If you can't answer how it adds value, you might want to hold off.
One of the keys to what you just said is it may not always be about selling. You mentioned people looked at what you were doing with those videos as giving it away for free. You weren't giving it away for free. You were sowing seeds. You were
Exactly.
sowing seeds that reaped a harvest a lot faster than you expected it to,
Right.
or a lot faster than they may have expected it to, because you already knew what was getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
But
And
mhm,
people, and what happens is when you're ahead of the curve like that, because I literally had people, I actually, as a result of it, ended up speaking at a conference in the UK because someone saw it and said, hey, we need someone to talk about this because this initial conference was about X, but all of our clients are now experiencing Y. Would you be willing to be a speaker at this conference in the UK? And of course, it was virtual, and I let them know they owe me a trip when this is all over. But now that opened up a door to something different. And so now I'm talking to people in the UK because they saw me at a conference because I gave away free content.
yep, absolutely. And at the end of the day, we could spend a 2 hour conversation just on relationships. But in 2 minutes, life is about relationships, ladies and gentlemen. I think MK mentioned, never call, and this is selling, this is business 101. Never go up to someone with your hand out. Never.
Mm.
If your hand is out, it's because you're giving something to them. Don't be that person that when people see you coming, oh, she's going to want something from me. What does she want from me? You want to be a giver. Be a giver. And it doesn't mean give away everything, but you find something that people can perceive as value and give that to them. Be a blessing to someone. You'd be surprised if you're a blessing to someone, it will come back to you. And again, that can take us down a whole nother conversation, but life is about relationships.
And MK could probably tell you this is probably especially with the type of client, the businesses that he works with, but there are relationships that I have that literally did not yield $1 until 3 or 4 years later. And I consistently work those relationships. I do a lot of government contracting, so I have government contracts. Like for example, Erica, you know about this one. I have a contract with the NSA, which I'm going to be ending. They're sad, I'm sad, but whatever. I know, because I'm stepping into a new phase. So it's a new phase. It's all new. But I literally got that contract from a person, information about that contract from a person that was in NSA. But when I met them, they weren't NSA, and they moved from one agency to another, knew about me helping them, knew I was in contact. And because I consistently reach out to my network and say, hey, how are things going? Is there anything I could do for you? When they were sitting at the table talking about this contract that's going to be all over NSA, they said, hey, I know a person. I met them 3 to 4 years earlier when they were at a totally different agency and did not have the level of influence and power they had 3 years later. Right. And so relationship building is so important, and it can take 2 to 3 years for that relationship to work. So it's not a I met you at a networking event, I'm going to send you an email and you're going to get me $1 million contract. That's not how relationships work.
Right.
All right, we are at 2:37, rapidly winding down the 90 minutes. MK, did you have something you wanted to chime in on that
No,
before okay.
that's perfect. Yeah.
Um, I would love before I throw out, and I see some hands raised. I'd love for you. We mentioned Main Street Entrepreneurship Program, Entrepreneur Seed Fund. We mentioned it, but I'd love. Can you please share a little more detail about what Main Street really is? And you mentioned that we're looking for year two. I know it's not official yet, but maybe could give the folks some ideas of when that might be coming out.
Absolutely. We don't have. So first of all, let me just talk about Main Street and what it is and what we do. Um, and I love it. I just love talking about it. It's just it's become like a family right now to me. Um, Main Street, the program started last year in June through a grant from the Marcus Foundation. And the goal of the program is to build, help, is to build new businesses, and it's focused around the Georgia State University alumni and student population, or how you like who is a community member, right? But the Magic program is really unique and is really the only one of its kind. And if I'm wrong here, please correct me, Erica or Deetra. But it's the only one of its kind, and I'll explain why. So if you look at Atlanta, the Atlanta ecosystem is growing, right? The startup ecosystem, it's bustling, right? It is becoming. You have incubators, accelerators popping up all over the place. Now, if you look at the categories of incubators or accelerators, you can put them into two buckets. The first is what you call an accelerator, and those are your Techstars or the farm, right? And they are basically backed by corporates, right? Either Cox or Comcast or Xfinity or whatever that is. And they give you, they pick a number of startups, anywhere from 6 to 10. They give them about 20 to 25,000 dollars, and then they take about anywhere from 3 to 6% of equity, right? So they dilute the entrepreneur, and they put they give them equity, and then they make them go through a program. You then have your incubators. Those are your, like, it takes a village out of the Atlanta Tech Village, Sir Thrive that just recently started. There is, Curiosity Labs, there's WeWork Labs and all that. And those are, great too. They give you education, they give you mentorship, they give you, they give you a network, but they don't give you any money, right? So entrepreneur, so the entrepreneur has to make a choice of, hey, do I leave my work that's to pay my bills and go to these workshops and attend them? Do I spend, after a tired day of 9 to 5 and, going through all this stuff, then I have to go back to this, you know, place to sort of spend another few hours, to put my hours in. And so, it's a choice, right? So it's a choice between, do I dilute my company for $25,000 to get education, and mentorship, or do I give up my, life, right? Just to get some networking. And here is Main Street. Main Street gives you money, right? We give the money to the company. We give it as a grant. In other words, we don't dilute the company. It's if we pick the company, we give them the money. And then we give them 6 months worth of mentorship, workshop, advice, networks, connections, and we never leave them after that either, right? And so, it's a family that stays with us, even though they may graduate the program. I am here always for them. Jameen is here for them. And so, we're always there, and they've built this great network. And by the time they leave Main Street, uh, you know, I want to get, my goal is that they will be ready to raise money, they're ready to pitch their company, or they will be scaling their business. Uh, and some of them may hate me for that, but I really, that doesn't bother me, because if I'm not doing that, then I'm not doing my job. So I came to the ministry. I set very high expectations of myself and of the entrepreneurs that we bring in, and that's and as long as I'm here, that's what's going to continue to happen.
There were over 100 applications, right? If memory serves me correctly, 120, I think.
Yeah, there were 120 applications. We were originally supposed to pick 10. I went to Jennifer and I said, these are awesome companies. I want to do more than 10. Jennifer said, go and do the math and do the numbers. And so I went and did the numbers and came back. And I told Jennifer, we can do 20. And so after we did the selections, I sent Jennifer and Jennifer said, you said you were going to pay 20 MK, but apparently you can't count because you sent me 21. And I said, okay. And I looked at the 21st company, and that company I was like, no, we have to pick the 21st company. This is great. And so we went and I found some more money, and then we picked 21 companies. And so, yeah, so, we're graduating them this week, actually, it's the last week, official week with them. We're right now, we're working with the Marcus Foundation for the next grant. And so, I don't have a specific timeline yet, but the goal is to get it, I mean, you will hear some news in the next few months, in
You
the
are
next couple of
plugged
months.
in. If you are plugged in and just check between the launch website and check ENI, if you pay half attention, you'll know when the next Main Street Entrepreneur Seed Fund. The only people who will not know are people who are not interested. I can promise you that. And just want to give you guys a shout out and kudos if anyone wants to learn some more. The latest Georgia State magazine, you guys were featured in that. And in addition to the initial round of money, they also did a pitch competition, and gave out some additional money. So there's lots of
Right.
information. Just look up the Main Street Entrepreneur Seed Fund. Um, it's fast. It's incredible how fast 90 minutes can go by when you're talking about things that you are passionate about. But I want to be very respectful of your time as well as the participants' time. We have one question that I promised her I would get to, and then I'm going to toss it to you guys for your final thoughts. Tracy, let's go ahead and take you off mute. Oops. Okay, you're unmuted. Tracy, what was your question, ma'am?
Can you
You
hear
said,
me?
We sure can. You sound wonderful. Thank you, Tracy, for
Thank
being
you.
patient.
I had actually taken my headphones off and was listening to it. Uh, so I was curious if we already have an online business concept, and I know that right now everybody we need to work on it is at home. Everybody we need target audience is like just ready for something new and fun. Um, can each of you, including Erica, just let us know the name of your favorite marketing slash graphic design firm that you work with that's reasonable, and we'd be in good hands if we got more investor money and wanted to continue to work with them and could do something fabulous.
Did we have a graphic design company in Main Street, MK? Were there any graphic designers?
No, but they were creative. Like, so we had like our Ashley Daramola of Archie Bella. She was in the art space. She was a creative, so it was kind of creative, she was in the creative space. Um, we didn't have a like a designer, in the Main Street program. We don't have
Or
anything like that.
each of you, just for your other projects, when you're trying to, when you were telling a friend that, that needs to launch something, who have you guys been using?
Tracy, I can't speak for everyone else. The reason it's difficult for me to answer that question is because it depends on what you need. So it's like, do you need a website? Are you looking for social media graphics? Are you looking for marketing materials? Like, what types of things are you looking to get done when you say marketing stuff?
In the startup, like what the graphic designer would do in creation of the basic branding, and then marketing, being able to get some analytics, get some research, get certain things done faster than just the normal sweat equity way.
Hmm.
So basically, a firm that has, maybe has worked for one of you guys in the past, but they can separate. You can purchase each little thing separately, and then they can all work together cohesively in the end, right? Because you got to start with a brand, launch online with a brand, and then, we'll hire certain people to do certain types of social media. But within that beautiful structure that marketing and graphic design team have set us up with, a
So
look, style, color information, make it wonderful.
I have a few people that I work with, so I'll give you a few because I don't necessarily want to recommend any one person. Um,
Thank you.
so some of it, and I'll be completely honest, I can't speak for MK, but some of it I had to do trial and error and do myself.
Yep.
I've had people come to me and say, "Oh my gosh, who did that for you?" And on the inside, I was smiling because I was so proud. I'm like, I did that myself. And I was hoping that nobody would come and tell me it looked like utter crap. But when I first started, I was actually looking at a few things that I've done, and I thought, oh my gosh, some of this first stuff was horrible. I can't believe nobody said anything. But on the flip side of that, I have one person that's actually located in Atlanta, and her name is Sasha Revel. She has done some really good stuff around creating logos and brand Bibles and things like. And the brand Bible is just simply a guide that you can give to any company that tells them exactly what your brand should be. So the letter should always look like this and not this. And my color is not just red; it's red number 40566 or whatever. She
Yeah.
did some of that for me. Fiverr is something that I use as well. It's a website where you
I
can
was
get,
gonna say that. Yeah.
yeah,
Fiverr.
Fiverr has been my marketing department for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, Fiverr is great. And the thing about Fiverr is it's a gig space. So for what you may pay one person to do one thing, you can get five people to see which one you like the best and do it that way. So it really ranges based on what I'm doing. But Sasha has been great. Fiverr has been great. Um, just and a place called SMB Studios, which is also here in Atlanta, is a great place as well to do some graphics, especially when I'm looking at uh, material or apparel that I may be working with. They're good with things
Yeah.
like that. So
Okay. Sasha Revel is Revel.
yeah, if you look for her on Instagram, she is I am Sasha R.
Okay.
So yeah.
Deidre hit the nail on the head. Fiverr is the one that came to mind for me. and that's Fiverr.
Mhm.
Like she said, it's
Mhm.
a gig space. So where you're competing for creatives all over the world, be advised, you get what you pay for. So
Right.
don't be so quick to jump to the person who'll design your logo for $5. They may be
Mhm.
great, but you take into consideration making the investment in yourself. There are lots of companies out there like Fiverr. Another one that comes to mind is Freelancer. And
Mhm.
that's spelled just like it's pronounced, freelancer.com. But there are a lot of those gig sites, and I'm sure many of those creatives are hungry. So take into consideration, I've heard good stories and I've heard bad stories. So, it still boils down to you get what you pay for. So
Yeah, it's
don't,
true. I knew about those gig sites, and really I think because I used to work in marketing, I was just looking for what you guys the next level up. you know, new company comes and really wants something amazing, um, rather than me going to Fivers and, all that. I think we have enough money to start well. So I just was curious. Thank you.
Now that's and when you ask that question, Tracy, too, make sure you kind of put that caveat. We not saying that you have just overflowing money, but kind of start with that. Hey, we have some money that we can spend because my first thought was, what resources can we give her that are as economical as possible, so she comes out the pocket with as little as she possibly can. Because that's my mind when I think. When I'm thinking, I internalize it. When I was startup, when I asked that question, I meant how can you get me something as close to free as possible without taking advantage of anyone?
that's exactly where my mind went. Absolutely. And I do have someone else that came to mind. I'll grab your email off of the registration, Tracy, and I'll follow up with you. But again, disclaimer, as Dietrich said, any suggestions are not referrals from Georgia State University.
Right.
You need to do your due diligence and decide if you want to work with this person. But we have passed our time. I want to thank you guys so, so much. Are there any final parting words that you have for the aspiring entrepreneurs? Anything you think they should be doing, you want them to do, or things you want to leave them with? Deidre, you're up, so we'll start with you.
Did you say me or who?
You're up. Mhm.
Okay. So my biggest thing is very, very simple. You've heard it before, so it's not my original statement. But just do it afraid. Don't just go ahead and do it. Put it out there. Some of your best ideas are the ones that come off the top of your head. Do it afraid. If it doesn't work, you won't die. If you do, it won't matter anyway. So do it afraid.
Thank you. Thank you. MK.
Yeah, the thing is, don't be like earlier I said, don't be afraid to fail. Test, try new things. And by the way, that keeps life much, way more interesting than just trying to do the safe thing. Um, this is like I said, this is a great time to, to really build a business, start a company. People are looking to connect with other people, make connections, reach out. People want to help. They love being, they love to help. And it's just the nature of, that's just a human nature. um, and stay safe.
Absolutely, absolutely. The one thing I want to leave you guys with is I'm a listening person. I'm a busy bee, so I'm always doing something and not sitting still. One of the things that I've fallen in love with recently is a podcast on NPR called How I Built This. Short 45-minute to 60-minute podcast from top companies that you know of, and also companies that you didn't realize you knew. So I found it on iHeartRadio. There's a new host. It used to be How I Built This with Guy Raz, but there's a new host whose name escapes me at the moment. I would strongly encourage you guys to take a look at that. There are tons of resources out there. The most important thing is to use your time wisely. Use your time wisely. And I hope you feel like the last 90 minutes you've spent with us has been a wise investment in your time. I thank you guys so much. If we were in person, you guys would get a standing round of applause, round of applause. You'll have to take the virtual applause right now. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you. Deetra, I already know how busy you are, and I have to unfortunately thank COVID for giving us all this time with you. MK, thank you so much. Again, I'm a glass half full kind of girl. First of all, I always keep my glass half full, but that's another story. You always have to look at the bright side of things, and I'm thankful that COVID gave us this opportunity to come together. I hope this has been helpful for the students. I think this is a session that we will do going forward, just giving people an opportunity to just ask questions, what's on your mind. So I thank you both so very much. I wish blessings on you and your family, that everyone stays safe, stays healthy. Make sure, as always, make sure you guys wash your hands. And hopefully, we'll see you next week for personal credit and the showcase on Thursday. Thank you guys so much. Take care.
And prayers for you in the
Bye.
draft tonight.
Ma'am?
Say prayers for you in the draft tonight.
Draft tonight, yeah.
Yes. All right. You guys take
All of
care.
you. Bye, Deetra, Erica. See you,
Bye.
everyone.